Tonight, we're finding out more about the victim, 31-year-old Nicole Vanderheiden. NBC 26's Marissa DiCandido spoke with her mother and sister today. She continues our live team coverage.
The man suspected of killing his live-in girlfriend and dumping her body in a field in Bellevue made his first court appearance today.
May 2016, the small town of Green Bay, Wisconsin, was going about its usual business. People were getting ready for summer, and the streets were filled with the smell of freshly cut grass and children's laughter. On the evening of May 20th, 35-year-old Nicole Vanderheiden, a mother of three, was getting ready to meet her friends. She put on her favorite blouse, quickly fixed her hair, kissed her children, and said, "I'll be back soon." It was a simple phrase that thousands of mothers say every day. Only for her, it would be the last. The next morning, a farmer driving down a country road near the river noticed something in the grass. It was a woman's body, bare feet, torn clothes, signs of a struggle. She was lying face down, as if the earth itself was trying to hide her pain. A few hours later, the police confirmed her identity, Nicole Vanderheiden. The news spread through the county like a thunderclap. Many people knew Nicole, energetic, open, with an infectious laugh. She worked, raised 3 children, and knew how to enjoy the little things. Morning coffee, family outings, holidays. To her neighbors, she was an example of strength and kindness. Therefore, the thought that someone could take her life seemed impossible. The place where the body was found was striking in its contrast. A quiet field, bathed in the soft May light, and in the center, a crime scene that was impossible to accept. Investigators said the scene seemed too personal, not like an attack by a random person. Someone knew her, someone was close to her, and that knowledge was the most frightening thing of all. The police immediately cordoned off the area. TV cameras, reporters, alarm. Against the backdrop of green hills, people lit candles and brought flowers. Nicole's 3 children stayed with their grandmother. Their questions were simple and unbearable. "Where's Mommy?" The city, accustomed to considering itself safe, was awakened in the most terrifying way. There were no loud shootouts or gangs here, only trust and peace, which were shattered in one morning. Everyone who knew Nicole replayed in their minds what they could have done: call, warn, stop. When the police said that the murder did not appear to be random, fear became palpable. Everyone understood that evil was nearby. It could smile, live across the street, say hello in the morning. No one expected death to come not from the darkness, but from the familiar light of everyday life. The first days after the discovery were filled with despair and disbelief. Photos of Nicole appeared on social media, her bright smile, her children, walks, holidays. People wrote, "She didn't deserve such an end." Posters with her face were hung all over the city, and the words, "Justice for Nicole," became a common prayer. For investigators, the case immediately became personal. They saw not just a victim, but a mother, a woman who had everything that makes life real. And somewhere out there, in a field, it was all destroyed with a single gesture. Nicole Vanderheiden's death shook not only Wisconsin, but the entire country. Her story became a symbol of how, even in a world of technology, cameras, and security, people remain defenseless against the evil that comes quietly, from those you trust.
Well, Stacy, her family tells me this has been a nightmare, and they're still searching for answers about what happened to their sister and daughter.
May 20, 2016 began as a normal Friday for Nicole Vanderheiden. She took her children to school and daycare, stopped by the store, and then returned home to the suburbs of Green Bay. The house on a quiet street, her children's drawings on the refrigerator, the smell of coffee. Everything spoke of the peace she longed for. She had plans for the evening, to relax a little and meet friends at a bar. After a stressful week, she wanted to feel like a woman, not just a mother and housewife. At that time, Nicole was living with a man named Douglas Dietrich. They had been together for about a year, raising her youngest child. The relationship was difficult. Arguments, jealousy, attempts to build trust. Friends said that Nicole tried to hold on, but often looked tired. That day, she decided not to stay home after all. Around 8 p.m., Nicole met her friends at a local bar. Surveillance cameras captured her, bright, smiling, wearing light makeup, and with a sparkle in her eyes. She drank beer, laughed, and danced. At that moment, no one could have guessed that these would be the last minutes of her carefree life. Later, Douglas joined the group. According to eyewitnesses, An argument broke out between them. Nicole was irritated, he was cold. The quarrel, which began over a trifle, quickly escalated into a storm. Nicole went out into the street, slamming the door behind her. Her friends tried to stop her, but she just said, "I just want to go home." Douglas stayed at the bar. Nicole walked home. The house was about 3 miles away, a road that no one walks on at night. But she walked. Maybe she called someone, maybe she was just trying to calm down. Her phone stopped responding around midnight. Douglas returned home around 2 in the morning. Later, he would say that he went to bed without checking to see if Nicole had returned. The next morning, he found the baby carriage at the door, but she was gone. Then he called his friends, then the police. His voice sounded confused. "I don't know where she is. She could have left and not come back." Investigators quickly found the first clues. Her shoes were lying on the side of the road, a few kilometers from the house. A little further on, there were traces of blood. Then, in a field, they found the body. Nicole had been brutally beaten, strangled, and dumped in the grass. When the police reported the discovery, Douglas wept. He insisted that he was not involved, that he loved her, that he regretted the argument. But the officers were already suspicious. There had been a conflict between them, and he was the last person to see her alive. He had to explain every detail of that evening. While the interrogations were going on, the city was in a state of alarm. People were afraid to go out at night. Parents wouldn't let their children go out to play. It seemed as if darkness itself had descended on the streets of Green Bay. However, a few days later, the case took an unexpected turn. Analysis showed that Douglas had not left the house at the time of the murder. His phone, router, and even the steps recorded by his fitness bracelet confirmed that he was at home. This bracelet, a Fitbit, became the key to the truth. The technology that tracked his movements became evidence. When the data confirmed his alibi, the investigation took a different turn. Now the police knew he wasn't the killer. But then who was? The answer was closer than anyone thought. That night, not far from the scene of the murder, a man was arrested for drunk driving. Traces of blood were found in his car. Later, DNA confirmed that it was Nicole's blood. His name was George Berging. When investigators began to piece together the events, a nightmarish picture emerged. Nicole, after arguing with Douglas, walked home. On the way, she met Berging, a stranger who offered her a ride. A conflict arose between them, and he attacked her. The police announced that the murder of Nicole Vanderheiden was not a domestic tragedy, but a random, brutal attack. This discovery was a double blow. Some felt relief, while others were horrified that the evil was random and causeless. Meanwhile, Nicole's house stood silent. Children's toys, books, photos, everything remained in its place. Only the voices of her children no longer called for their mother. Nicole's last day ended where her family's life began, on the road home. And that journey, only a few miles long, became the border between light and darkness.
On Monday, police arrested 34-year-old Douglas Dietrich for the murder of his girlfriend, 31-year-old Nicole Vanderheiden. At today's hearing, a judge ordered Dietrich be held on $1 million cash bond.
When Nicole Vanderheiden did not return home on the morning of May 21st, no one initially thought the worst. Her partner, Douglas Dietrich, decided that she might have stayed with a friend to sleep off an argument. But as time passed, the feeling that something terrible had happened grew stronger. Nicole's phone was silent, and she had left 3 small children at home, whom she never left unattended. By noon, her mother had called the police. On the other end of the line, her voice trembled. "She hasn't come home. This isn't like her." Patrol officers immediately began searching the area. Soon, one of her shoes was found on the side of the road. A few meters away, they found the second one. One of her earrings was stuck in the grass. These small details foreshadowed the horror to come. That same day, around 6 p.m., a farmer driving along a country road near the river park noticed something that looked like fabric in a field. When he got closer, he realized it was a woman's body. She was lying face down, her hair tangled, her clothes torn. It was clear that she had struggled. Marks on her neck indicated strangulation. A piece of rope and tire tracks were found nearby. Brown County instantly became the center of the investigation. Investigators, forensic experts, journalists, they all arrived at the scene. The murder site was eerily quiet. Only the wind rustled in the grass, and many later recalled this sound, as if nature itself was trying to drown out the pain. The police immediately questioned Douglas. He looked devastated, cried, and claimed he was not involved. But the investigators could not simply take his word for it. Everything pointed to him. The quarrel, jealousy. He was the last person to see the victim. He was arrested, and an investigation into all possible scenarios began. Meanwhile, despair swept through the city. People left flowers on her doorstep and lit candles. The Your Justice for Nicole movement appeared on social media. Everyone was waiting for answers, and only one item, a small electronic bracelet on Douglas's wrist, soon changed the course of the investigation. Fitbit, a device that records heart rate, steps, and sleep. It seemed like a trifle, a toy, but the data from it showed that Douglas did not leave the house on the night of the murder. His heart rate remained stable, his steps minimal. He was asleep when Nicole died. This discovery was a turning point. For the first time, 21st century technology provided an alibi that could not be refuted. Douglas was released. Investigators began looking for a new suspect. George Berging lived nearby, alone, and had a criminal record for assault. That night, he was returning home when he saw a woman walking down the road, Nicole. According to investigators, he gave her a ride, then attacked, beat, and strangled her. He then dumped her body in a field, got in his car, and drove away, leaving behind a trail of evidence that led back to him. The police arrested him a few days later. When he was told that DNA had been found, he lowered his head and said, "I just wanted her to shut up." Those words, cold and dispassionate, became a nightmare for Nicole's family. The investigation showed that he acted alone. His crime was not premeditated, a sudden burst of aggression, alcohol, senseless cruelty. But that doesn't make it any easier. Nicole's mother stood at a press conference holding a photo of her daughter. She was just walking home. Only 3 miles. 3 miles she never walked. This phrase spread across the country. People wrote letters, brought flowers, shared their stories. The city of Green Bay was filled with grief and distrust. Everyone felt that if death could come like this, accidentally, instantly, for no reason, then no one was safe. When Berging was brought to court, he looked detached, like a man who no longer cared. Investigators said there was no remorse or fear in his eyes, only emptiness. The case of Nicole Vanderheiden became an example of how chance and technology intertwined in one story. She died because she met the wrong person, and her killer was caught because another person wore a bracelet that could count steps. The investigation into Nicole Vanderheiden's murder became a model of how human error and technological precision can collide head-on. In the early days, the police were certain that Douglas Dietrich, the victim's partner, was guilty. The motive, the argument, the timing, everything seemed obvious. But the truth turned out to be more complicated than even the most experienced detectives had imagined. When experts began analyzing digital traces, the picture began to change. Douglas's Fitbit bracelet became his silent witness. The device recorded his heart rate, steps, and sleep. At the moment when, according to the investigation, the murder took place, his pulse was steady and his activity was zero. No movement, no signs of a struggle or leaving the house. Investigators checked the data against the Wi-Fi router and neighbors' cameras. Everything confirmed one thing: Douglas was at home. This was a rare case where technology literally saved a man from a life sentence. The police, accustomed to trusting their intuition, were forced to admit they were wrong. Now they needed to figure out who killed Nicole, and here, chance came to their aid. One of the officers remembered a man who had been arrested that same night for drunk driving, George Berging. He had been released without being linked to the murder, but a report of strange stains on his clothes and injuries on his hands prompted the detectives to review the case. When they searched his car, they found traces of blood on the floor mats and interior trim. Tests showed that it was Nicole's DNA. His shoes had dirt from the very field where the body was found. This coincidence was the first link in the chain that tightened the noose around his neck. George's interrogation lasted almost 10 hours. At first, he denied everything, saying that he didn't remember anything and that maybe he just helped the woman get into the car. But the more evidence was laid out on the table, photographs, blood tests, his phone records, the quieter his voice became. Finally, he said, "I just wanted her to stop screaming." This phrase became a confession. According to investigators, he spoke calmly, as if talking about something that didn't matter. He didn't try to justify himself. He didn't cry. He just quietly repeated, "I didn't want it to turn out this way." The investigation showed that Berging acted alone. He was drunk, saw Nicole, and offered her a ride. On the way, they got into an argument. She tried to get out, and he hit her. First with his hands, then he strangled her with a belt. After that, he dumped the body and tried to destroy the clothes and evidence. Technology once again played a decisive role. In addition to DNA, the police used mobile phone tower data to confirm that George's phone was in the same area where Nicole disappeared at the time of the murder. His movements, recorded on a GPS tracker, coincided with the route to the crime scene. Even the time the engine was turned off matched the estimated time of death. When the case went to trial, prosecutors built their case minute by minute. They showed how a chance encounter turned into murder, how one decision changed the fate of 3 children. Footage was shown on the screen: a field, a road, a map of movements. Each piece of evidence created a mosaic picture where chance was just a mask for horror. The defense tried to argue that George didn't remember what he had done, that alcohol clouded his mind, that he lost control, but the prosecutor responded harshly. Losing control doesn't erase bloodstains, and it doesn't make you dump a body in a field. When the verdict was read, the courtroom was completely silent. The court found George Berging guilty of the murder of Nicole Vanderheiden and sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. At that moment, Douglas, the former defendant, sat in the courtroom next to Nicole's parents. He held her children's hands. After the hearing, he told reporters, "I could have been sent to prison for something I didn't do, but I lost much more, the person I loved." A fitness bracelet, a simple device designed for health, became an instrument of justice. It proved one man's innocence and helped catch the real killer. Since then, police academies in Wisconsin have studied this case as an example of how technology can speak for the dead. And yet, for Nicole's family, no data, no evidence could bring back her voice, her footsteps, her life. Her mother said after the trial, "We are grateful that the truth has come out, but the truth doesn't hug you at night." George Berging did not look like a murderer. Of average height, broad-shouldered, with a tired face and a quiet voice, he was a typical man from a small American town. He worked in construction, lived alone, and sometimes visited his parents. Neighbors described him as reserved but polite, a man who always says hello but doesn't linger in conversation. Nothing foreshadowed that one day his name would become synonymous with senseless cruelty. His problems began long before the murder. Several years ago, he had already been convicted of assault but received a suspended sentence. He often quarreled with his superiors, couldn't hold down a job, and lost interest in everything. People who knew him said that he walked with a shadow over his shoulder. On the night of May 20th, 2016, he was drinking again. According to testimony, he drank so much that evening that he could barely stand. But that didn't stop him from getting behind the wheel. He was driving home on a dark road when he saw a woman, Nicole, walking alone, barefoot, on the side of the road. He stopped. Perhaps he offered her a ride. Perhaps she agreed, exhausted, angry after a quarrel, just wanting to get home as soon as possible. What happened next is known only from the reconstruction of the investigation and his own fragmentary confessions. An argument broke out between them. Perhaps she asked him to stop the car. Perhaps he made an indecent proposal. She resisted, tried to get out. And then, a flash of rage. Alcohol, resentment, suppressed anger, everything mixed together. He hit her, then again. And when she screamed, he grabbed a belt and tightened the noose. Experts called it an impulsive crime. There was no plan, no calculation, only the destructive force of pent-up aggression. But even if it all happened suddenly, that didn't make it any less cruel. George didn't stop. He didn't call for help, didn't try to fix what he had done. He killed her and then left, leaving her body in the field like a useless thing. At the trial, prosecutors emphasized that this was not just a burst. It was a choice to leave the woman to die, cover up the traces, and continue living as if nothing had happened. His indifference after the crime proved that his conscience had died long before that night. His silence after his arrest was striking. He did not deny it, but he did not repent either. When asked by the investigator, "Why did you do it?" he replied, "I don't know. I just couldn't stop." These words reflected his inner abyss, a void devoid of logic or compassion. Psychiatrists described his behavior as a classic case of antisocial personality disorder, exacerbated by addiction. Such people do not see others as complete individuals. To them, those around them are mere props in their own chaos. Nicole happened to be nearby when his inner aggression reached its limit. In court, he sat with his head down, avoiding eye contact. Only once, when the prosecutor showed a photograph of Nicole alive, smiling, holding a child in her arms, did his face twitch. No one understood whether it was remorse or irritation. The motive for the crime turned out to be horribly simple: hopelessness, humiliation, drunkenness, a flash of rage, and murder. Not because he wanted to kill, but because he didn't know how not to kill when he felt weak. The judge said in his sentence, "You didn't just take a life, you destroyed 3 others, the lives of her children. And now, their only legacy is your emptiness." After these words, George looked up for the first time, and, as witnesses noted, there was nothing in his gaze. No regret, no awareness, only a cold emptiness, like that of a man who had long since lost himself and stopped searching. The trial of George Berging was the final page in the tragedy that began on that May night, when the judge pronounced life imprisonment without parole. Silence fell over the courtroom. Nicole's mother closed her eyes and cried, not out of joy, but out of emptiness. Justice had prevailed, but it would not bring her daughter back. Nicole's 3 children went to live with her parents. The house where she had laughed and baked pies became a reminder of how quickly life can be cut short. Her photos remained on the wall, on the beach, with friends, with her youngest son in her arms. Her mother sometimes said, "We try to live as she would have wanted, but every night, when the children fall asleep, I hear the silence, and in it, her voice." The city of Green Bay has changed. Residents, accustomed to peace and quiet, now look around more carefully. At the spot where Nicole's body was found, there's a small cross with the inscription, "She was almost home." People bring flowers and toys there. It has become a place of remembrance, a quiet reminder of the price of human cruelty. Nicole Vanderheiden's story has been included in criminology curricula. Her case has become a symbol of a new era of investigation, where technology can not only simplify life, but also restore justice. Fitbit, a seemingly harmless gadget, became a witness that did not lie. But for Nicole's loved ones, all this technology is just cold statistics. For them, she will always be alive. A woman who knew how to laugh, love, and forgive. A woman whose journey home was interrupted not by fate, but by human darkness. Every year, on May 21st, a memorial event is held in Green Bay. People walk along that very road with flashlights in their hands. They walk 3 miles, the distance Nicole did not manage to cover. At the end of the road, they light candles and say her name aloud. "She may not have made it home," said her father, "but now every step we take for her brings us closer to the light." These words became the epilogue not only to one tragedy, but also a reminder to everyone. Even in a world of technology, human evil remains the same, and it can only be fought with memory, compassion, and truth.